Pitching is something that I learned on the phone. So learning it on the phone is applicable to, I guess, cold email, but not in the same way. Copywriting and phone sales are two very different arts, let's say. But I remember my first opening line when I was calling on the phone. It was, "Good afternoon, my name is Tristan Tate. I'm calling from T3 Television, and I'd like to discuss the opportunity of television advertising for your company." That was the first line that I would say on the phone. So, who I was, where I was calling from, what I wanted from them, what I wanted them to entertain the idea of. Because it was always a tantalizing carrot I'd dangle in front of them, "I'd like to discuss the possibility of television advertising for your company." I was waiting then for a series of objections. So to pitch, you need to come across letting them know who you are and what you want very fast, because CEOs and people who own businesses have very little time for idiots on the phone. Objections are the key to telephone sales and face-to-face sales as well. Everyone's going to try to say no for a bunch of different reasons, and you have to be able to counter them very, very quickly. So let's take television advertising again. "I'm calling to discuss the possibility of television advertising for your company." "Well, that's too expensive. I can't afford television advertising." "Well, do you know how much television advertising is nowadays?" And they'd be like, "Well, no, but I imagine it's quite expensive." And I say, "Well, you know what? You're completely correct. You don't belittle them. You're completely correct. But your ideas are outdated, because back in the 1990s, when there were only 4 television channels to advertise on, these big media companies had a monopoly over the fact that people watch television, and only big blue chip companies could afford it. However, since the advent of cable television and the 200 plus channels you have across your home, it's given us 2 advantages. 1, the prices have come right down because there's more channels to compete with one another. And 2, you can specify exactly which demographics you want to reach with your television commercials. For example, if you're trying to sell to women and you're selling makeup, we could target Sex and the City on this channel. If you're trying to target men, then we can use 2.5 Men on Comedy Central. And you'd wow them with knowledge while overcoming their objections. So the art of pitching is to be able to turn any no, or any "I don't think so," or any "I'm not interested," into a question, into them being curious. And it's something that we call the desire curve. Of course, everybody wants television advertising, but they don't think it's right for their business. They don't think they can afford it. You start at 0, and the close can only be made on the graph once you get their desire high enough. That's when they say, "Yes, I'm happy to meet you face to face." So pitching is all about, face to face or on the phone, in a live conversation with a person, how to deal with and overcome their objections to not wanting the product that you want to sell. Now, copywriting is a very different art, because it doesn't work like a free-flowing conversation. And I'm quite good at it, and I did a lot of the early copywriting for mine and Andrew's businesses when we first started out to sell, for example, War Room memberships. I did some of it back then. However, I'm not an expert. But you know who is an expert? The professor inside the real world. So if you want to learn 2024 sales, don't listen to me, the 36-year-old man who has a career in sales in the past and on the phone. Very, very useful skills to know, and still applicable today. However, if you're looking for sales information on how to sell via email, how to copyright, how to send cold correspondence and get clients back, then you want to be inside the real world. Pitching face-to-face, business meetings. On the phone, you can hear the confidence in somebody. You can hear how they're coming across. It's the way I'm speaking to the camera right now. I'm not speaking to the camera like, when you're pitching people. They can hear it on the phone, but in person, they can feel it. Nice, firm handshake. Sitting like this, trying to explain your ideas. Being animated with your hands when you're pitching your ideas. Being excited in your voice when you're pitching your ideas. If I were to sit here and say like, when you're pitching people in person, what you need to do is be excitable and make sure that you're coming across right. It's not the same. It's not the same. You have to have the energy. You have to have the fire. You certainly don't have to seem like it's the most important thing in the world, like you care more than anything else in the world, but you need to seem like you care more than them. That's the key. If this business has a problem and I can fix it, I care about this man's business visibly more than he does during that meeting. That's the only thing that's going to get a man excited. There are very few types of sales where a salesman can sit back and be like, "Well, here's the price, here's the best I could do, do you want it or not?" And I've been sold those things in some ways. I went into the Rolls-Royce showroom in London, and the guy's name, I believe, was Warren or Stephen. It may have been Stephen, actually, the guy who sold me the Rolls-Royce. Older gentleman, very well dressed, very smart. It was £500,000 on this price tag of this car. It was the only one for sale. He knew it was the only one for sale. He knew if I didn't want to buy that one, I'd have to wait 6 months after ordering one. And he said, "Well, I've been doing this a long time, guys. 465, best I could do, yes or no?" And I was like, "Cool, yes." Because he's in a very unique position as a salesman. He hasn't come to me and said, "Hey, Tristan, do you want to get around in luxury? Here's a brand new product called a Rolls-Royce Wraith. That didn't happen. I saw the car, I fell in love with it, I walked into his showroom, as hundreds of time wasters do every day. He's busy, he doesn't care, there's one for sale, and he made the close. But that is a very exceptionally difficult type of sales to get into. How many Toyotas has Steven sold in his lifetime? How many Lancias? How many Austins? I'm talking about old car brands that were around in his time. He's a much older man. How many Mini Coopers did this guy sell to get to the elite pinnacle of sales when he is in the London Rolls-Royce showroom selling their premium vehicles? Probably a lifetime of work, so he deserves to be there. But he's done plenty of hard closes on Land Rovers and Jeeps, believe me.